Hi, this is Mark Madison, and it's April 4th, 2011. We're at the National Conservation Training Center in Shepherdstown, West Virginia, doing a podcast with Jay Slack, who's the director here at NCTC, and Steve Chase, who's chief of our Division of Education and Outreach. And they're going to tell us a little about the history of the Eagle Cam we have here on campus. And why don't we start with you, Steve? Why don't you tell us when the Eagle Cam went up and what we've seen in the last 7 years?
Well, this is our 7th year of having Eagles here at NCTC. The first year, we did not have a cam up in the tree, and we were able, though, to watch the pair of eagles as they fledged one, a young eagle. That next summer, we decided it'd be neat to put a camera up in the tree, and we were able to get up in the tree and mount that camera so everybody around the world could see what was going on. And since then, a huge community, a global community, has turned out to watch these eagles.
Jay, why have an Eagle Cam at NCTC?
Well, first of all, we were really blessed with the opportunity to put the camera in the nest and make it available to folks to see what it's like in the day of a life of an eagle. But more importantly, the National Conservation Training Center and the Fish and Wildlife Service is really focused on conservation education. And we believe having this Eagle Cam and getting the word out to folks is one of the avenues that we can use as an agency to let people know how important it is to enjoy wildlife, learn about wildlife, how important it is to maintain habitat that's supportive of natural critters, and how much enjoyment we can get from being able to watch them, whether it's an Eagle Cam in the tree here at NCTC, broadcasts throughout the world, or whether it's birds in your backyard. I think they're all equally enjoyable to watch.
Steve, what are some of the more interesting things folks have been able to see on the Eagle Cam over the last 7 years?
Well, over the history of having a cam up there, they've fledged about 8 young eaglets. It's been pretty neat watching them come out of the eggs and then grow until they're to the point where they can actually fly out of the nest. But those have been the fun times. There's also been some not so fun times that are all part of nature. That includes bad weather that has had impacts on eggs that have been laid. And also, though, you get the opportunity to be able to watch how diligent and committed these birds are to keep those eggs safe and dry. I can still remember a day 3 years ago when we had a sleet and ice storm. They came in, and one of the eagles literally sat on those eggs until it was neck deep in the snow. And unfortunately, her efforts weren't quite enough that year, and she lost all 3 eggs, but certainly her dedication was really admirable, and I think a really neat thing to watch.
Great. Jay, do you have any idea who's tuning into the Eagle Cam to watch the images we have?
Well, from the folks that I've talked with and heard about that are watching the Eagle Cam, really there's no, mold that anyone fits. We have grade school kids, we've got college students, we've got people viewing from their homes. We've got professionals that are viewing from their desktops at work, and basically, I don't think there's any one person that might be more likely to watch the eagle nest. But one thing is certain is when people start watching the eagles, they're all equally passionate about what they see and what they learn.
Yeah, it seems pretty addictive, but I've talked to a couple of teachers who are just running it full time in their classroom, so it seems to reach a lot of school children. Steve, what's the future of the Eagle Cam?
Well, the future is we'll be able to broadcast for the rest of the year, and we'll see what happens with the birds next year. We're really fortunate to have a partner, the Outdoor Channel, and they work with us to make sure we have enough bandwidth to get the Eagle video out to as many people as possible around the world. And without their help and assistance, we just wouldn't be able to do that. So we look forward to having another year.
Great. That's a good segue, too, also, to where can people find the Eagle Cam if they're just tuning into the podcast and haven't seen it yet?
Probably the best place to start would be to go to the National Conservation Training Center website. It's training.fws.gov. And if you go onto our main website there, you can see a button you can click on that says Eagle Cam, and that'll bring you to our Eagle Cam site. And you can go from there. We have both a still image that's up all the time and the hyperlink over to the Outdoor Channel's live video.
Thank you very much, Steve. Thank you, Jay. For those of you who want to learn more about the Eagle, we're going to do 2 more podcasts updating you on the Eagle, some recent events, and giving you some more information. And if you want to find our podcast, you can go to that same website that Steve mentioned, which is the National Conservation Training Center, and we're at training.fws.gov. Or you can also find our podcasts by searching National Conservation Training Center on iTunes University. Thank you very much. Hi, this is Mark Madison at the National Conservation Training Center in Shepherdstown, West Virginia, and this is the second in a 3-part series on our Eagle Cam here at the NCTC campus. I'm joined by Jay Slack, who's the director at the National Conservation Training Center, and Steve Chase, who is the chief of our Division of Education and Outreach. Welcome, Jay and Steve. And the Eagle Cam has been up for 7 years, but this nesting season was quite melodramatic for us. And why don't we start with Jay and ask what happened to the Eagles this year?
Well, let me start by saying we've enjoyed 7 years of relatively straightforward eagle biology. This year we have had an interesting turn of events, certainly sad in some ways. What we've seen is a territory that has been changed by another eagle that's come in, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But we've also had an opportunity to learn a lot more about eagle biology. As I was telling Steve the other day, the last 7 years we've pretty much had Eagle Biology 101 here on campus, and we've jumped to Eagle Biology 301, and we're actually all learning. We've called in experts to help us interpret what we've seen, but this third eagle that has come in has asserted itself into the territory and into the existing breeding pair, and has upset the balance of power and has impacted the breeding activities for this year.
Okay. Steve, why don't you give us a chronology of what happened for the 2011 nesting season?
Okay, well, I'll give you a timeline here. The first egg was laid on February 5th, the second egg around the 9th of February, and then it was pretty normal incubation with the 2 birds switching off for several weeks. And the first egg actually hatched on St. Patrick's Day on March 17th. And that was right around the time that things started to get interesting. That was at some point around that date, a new eagle came onto the scene. And right now we believe that new eagle is a male eagle, a young male eagle, and came in and likely had some sort of confrontation with the resident male eagle that caused the resident male eagle to stay away from the nest from then on. And as Jay said, that pretty much disrupted the whole process. That first eaglet that hatched on the 17th was able to stay alive for a couple days, but because the female was never willing to head out and find food or fish for the young one, and the resident male was not able to be able to bring food into the nest, that young eaglet died. Subsequent to that, we believe that the resident male was able to get into the nest to be on the cam on the 21st of March, although there are some people that think that was actually the female. These are pretty tough birds to tell apart sex-wise unless you actually capture the bird and examine the bird closely. So there is some disagreement as to whether or not that bird on the 21st was the actual resident male. But other than that, we have seen no one but the resident female and this new bird that we believe to be a male who's hanging around a lot. It could be that these birds will end up being a nesting pair next year. It's just only time will tell.
Jay, what do you think the educational value was of this nesting season?
Well, as I'd mentioned, I think we've kind of gone into the realm of advanced eagle biology here. But I will also point out to the listeners that though this is advanced eagle biology, it's in no way, shape, or form unusual eagle behavior. In a strong and healthy population, territories and prime nesting sites like the nest site that we do here have on NCTC are in a rare commodity and are always contested. And so seeing this sort of thing in some ways is bad for the resident eagles, but is also a good indicator of a healthy, strong population. So, so there are positives that we see from this, clearly. From a biological standpoint, I think it's important to point out that these animals are wild animals, and they go about their lives this way, just like all other wild animals out there. And, this is part of being an eagle, part of existing out there. And, I think it's an important lesson for us to be able to convey, and I think it's an important thing for people to be able to learn. It is the very reason we put the camera up in the nest, is to give people an appreciation for biology and what it's like, and would encourage some of the information that we've put on our website would encourage people to go out and read about eagles and read about eagle biology and learn more. It's a fascinating thing.
That's a good way to conclude. Steve, where could they find additional information on eagles on our website?
Well, a couple different ways. First way would be to go to training.fws.gov and click on our Eagle Cam page, and you can get more information there. You can also click onto our partners, the Outdoor channel, where you can see the live video feed of the Eagle Cam. And then you can also just use your favorite search engine and type in eagle biology or eagle habitat struggles or any number of permutations of search terms, and you can learn a lot about eagles. And we found that many of the people that watch our cam every day have been doing just that, and they're learning a lot about the dynamics of these really cool birds.
Great. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Jay. And I'd like to thank all of you who took the time to listen to this podcast. This is the second of 3 podcasts on our Eagle Cam at NCTC. If you want to see all of our podcasts, you can go to, as Steve mentioned, our website at training.fws.gov, or you can search National Conservation Training Center at iTunes University. Hi, this is Mark Madison, and it's April 4th, 2011, and I'm at the National Conservation Training Center in Shepherdstown, West Virginia. And this is the third of 3 podcasts we're doing on the NCTC Eagle Cam. And I have with me this afternoon Jay Slack, who is the director of the National Conservation Training Center, and Steve Chase, who is the chief of our Division of Education and Outreach. And they're going to talk a little about what's going forward with the Eagle Cam after we had our original nesting couple disrupted this year. So we had the male driven out earlier this winter, and Jay, I'm going to ask you, what are we going to intend to do from here on in?
Well, first of all, we intend to keep the Eagle Cam running. There's at least the resident female, as we understand it, going back in the nest. Another eagle's here. One that we speculate is probably a male that has come into the territory. So there's opportunity to see those eagles as they're interacting. Certainly, from a biology standpoint, you never know what might happen, so we want to keep that camera running. One important thing from our agency's standpoint and from a biological standpoint is that we have no intention of intervening in any way with the biology that's going on between the eagles that are out there. This is a natural thing, and so you're not going to see us take any sort of management activity out there at all. We're going to let nature run its course, just as anyone should with wild animals and birds that you would come across in your yard or on your property. So we continue to run the nest camera, and hope folks are going to be able to see the eagles and then encourage them to learn more about eagle biology through research or through interacting with one another on the various sites. This is an opportunity to be thinking about eagle biology kind of at a higher level than we'd been thinking about it before.
Great. Steve, what type of reaction did you get from people who were watching the Eagle Cam? Did they make comments on our blog and so on, or requests?
Well, thousands and thousands of people have been watching the Eagle Cam for a number of years now. And, of course, when this type of situation shows its head, it's going to be emotional, it's going to be upsetting to people. But we feel very strongly that allowing wild nature to operate without any intervention from man is the best way to do things, and that's the way we will. That's the way we dealt with this issue, and that's the way we'll deal with it in the future.
Great. Jay, we've had the Eagle Cam for 7 years. What can we expect for the next couple of years?
Well, as I mentioned briefly here a minute ago, is that from a biological standpoint, we don't know what might happen. Clearly, this territory is in flux right now. We probably think that there's not going to be any sort of mating or re-nesting activity if this pair were to bond. And so we don't think we're going to see any young eagles this year. Hopefully, the territory, being a viable one and clearly one that's sought after, will be occupied next year, and we hope that next year we'll see a pair of eagles using that nest. And right now we have no indication that would lead us to believe that the nest won't be used next year, and we hope that's the case.
Like the old real estate maxim, location, location, location.
It is a good location.
Good waterfront property.
Yes.
Steve, what are we going to do to continue to keep folks informed about the eagle and to keep researching the eagle?
Well, we have an intern working for us that's from the Wildlife Society, and she is spending some of her time right now learning more about these particular birds and learning about the behaviors that they've been showing, and she is going to be taking that information and providing us with occasional updates that we'll put on our Eagle Cam site, which can be found at training.fws.gov. Just get onto our main NCTC site and then click on Eagle Cam, and you'll see the Eagle Cam updates that are listed on that page.
Thank you very much, Steve. Thank you, Jay. You've been listening to the third of 3 podcasts we've done to update you on the Eagle Cam, the spring of 2011 at NCTC. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you'd like to listen to other podcasts, we have a number up with conservation biologists and various conservation thinkers. You can visit the NCTC website, which Steve just described, at training.fws.gov, or you can go to iTunes University and search under National Conservation Training Center and find our podcast page. Thank you very much.